The bell rings for a fourth time this season. Who found the weekend hard, and who was noble in their work? It's the Thruxton driver race.
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. Yes, we are back once again to find out who's going to be top of the class.
Or we know that.
Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious at this point. Or who's going to be bottom of the list. So we'll get straight into it then, and we'll start with, again, that man that's top of the class feels like every single weekend. I think his only bad weekend so far has been Donington.
Yeah.
Ash Sutton, this weekend, because race 3 didn't quite impress me as much as I thought he would.
No, it's obviously picked up in the main bulk of the review podcast, but yeah, he hasn't picked up as many points as he has done at Snetterton or the weekend before at Brands.
Yes.
Good wheel knowledge.
Yeah.
So yeah, terrible weekend by Ash Sutton by his very high standards. Rubbish. No, he's taking 33 wins now. He's going to get Plato's record. I think that's fairly obvious.
He's already won half the races this season,
yeah,
which is very ominous. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So an A for this weekend.
Yeah, moving on to Camish, who I didn't realise was racing. He was very quiet and went about his business very much under the radar.
Yeah, it was an anonymous.
Wasn't even picked up on cameras, really, was he?
No, an anonymous weekend for Camish. It's a C for his efforts this weekend. Look, he's in the championship fight still, but when you've got Sutton doing that out front, you just need a little bit more. Not to take a podium this weekend. Yeah, it's a C. As you say, wasn't consistently scoring points, but not involved particularly.
No, moving on to Rowbottom, his teammate. Had a bit of a mixed weekend. Didn't finish race 1, unfortunately. But then fought back through the field, managed to get points in race 2, just about, and then benefited from a reverse grid to fight back and properly go out and take that win in race 3.
Yeah, good recovery drive. Proof that in the touring cars, it's not all lost if you have a bad race 1. A good win. That's his second of his career. It's a B for his weekend's efforts.
It is. However, Osborne in that fourth Napa car doesn't look like a Ford this weekend.
This weekend, no.
Way off the pace.
Yeah.
I can't quite understand why. Caught up in a couple of incidents.
That's a bit boring at some point.
Yeah,
just not now.
It's an E for him this weekend. Yeah. It's just, I want to say, out of character. Over the last couple of weekends, he's done decently, especially at Snetterton. We thought he turned a corner. Literally, yeah. And this weekend he was nowhere, not even close to winning a Jack Sears.
No, that's it. And that his first aim every weekend has to be scoring good points in the Jack Sears. Yep. And okay, race 1, which we just discussed in the other pod, he gets caught up, but he doesn't recover all weekend, and it's just, it's certainly a step back from where he has been racing at. So it's a E for him this weekend, and he's lost ground in the Jack Sears, no longer leading it, which is not necessarily key at this stage of the season, but a surprise nonetheless.
Certainly a surprise, especially in that car. Moving on to the Hyundais then. Ingram, Mr. Consistency with Bs throughout the season so far. He was
better this weekend.
He was almost best of the rest behind Sutton, but didn't have quite enough to then take any sort of fight to him either.
No, but it's difficult for anyone to at the moment.
It is.
He's done what he has to do, to use an Ingram phrase. He's made it a pointsy weekend, and he actually made a bit of progress in race 3, which has chipped away the gap to Ash Sutton at the top.
Yeah, I think there's now 14 points between them at the top, which compared to everyone else that's battling for this championship isn't much of a gap.
As you said at the end of the race, that's not a big gap at this stage. Nope. Given how dominant Ash has been, that's not a big gap, to be fair. So yeah, it's a B for Ingram. Things didn't go as well on his opposite side of the garage of Chilton, who, to be fair, coming into the weekend, we both said we didn't expect your phone to be switched to silent. It never is. Why do you never switch it to silent?
I do. We just started a bit quickly. Go on, carry on.
We did say coming into this weekend that we thought that the Hyundais would struggle a little bit. So a good weekend for Chilton would have been scoring points. You predicted he'd have 3 points finishes.
And he was so close to doing it.
Yeah. Caught in an incident with Jelly in race 1, because it's the way the replays work, it's hard to know what actually happened at the chicane. but certainly involved in problems and didn't really make progress through the pack. It's a C for him this weekend.
Yeah, just let me down in race 3, unfortunately. Pearson, his teammate, takes a C this weekend as well. He was there or thereabouts on the outskirts of the points, but I think he'll be really disappointed that he hasn't taken a Jack Sears win. That PMR was very quick this weekend. We kind of expected it. But then again, Pearson didn't even finish second in Jack Sears this weekend.
He's got to start finishing races consistently. That's
Yep.
that's the key, because you said before, if you don't finish a race, it really hurts in the Jack Sears Trophy.
Certainly does.
Halstead, it's not been a good day at all, unfortunately. He is now on -6 points for multiple engine changes. He was involved in incidents throughout the day. Just doesn't look particularly wide into the car still. It's a D.
Have we ever had anyone finish a championship on -points?
I couldn't tell off the top of my head.
I don't think we have, because I think it's been in much recent years that we've had this penalty of taking extra engines.
Prior to the Alton Park pod preview, I will find that out for you.
Okay. But yeah, not another good weekend from him. Showed a little bit of lack of racing etiquette, as it were, in race 1, which we've talked about in the review pod. Moving on to the BMWs then, WSR, starting with Turkington, who had a solid weekend, really.
Best of the Beamers, in my opinion.
Yeah, scored consistent points, giving him a B this weekend, but never really, apart from race 3, challenged for a podium.
No, but I think what he did this weekend, to his credit, is that he realised that the car, they're struggling on the setup. That's clear. They haven't got the right setup. And he's come here and got a bit of damage limitation. He's finished well in each of the 3 races.
Yeah.
You know, he's got to keep himself in a chance of the championship at this stage. And that's what he's done this weekend, more so perhaps than teammates.
Yeah, talking to teammates, teammate Hill, only a C this weekend. Really didn't make the most of what you expected of him, certainly. He's shown pace here before and didn't capitalise on it. I'm wondering if there's some sort of fundamental issue underneath in that BMW this year.
They just have the speed, do they? They just don't seem to have the speed.
Maybe they've moved the engine. Sorry.
The reason he gets a C rather than B is I just think that Turkin made progress again in race 3. And generally was looking forward all weekend and was at least involved in a few scraps. Whereas Hill had quite a lonely weekend, and race 3 didn't make any progress either, and got mugged by Ingram in the penultimate lap, which could be costly.
Yep, very much so. Moving on to Morgan, a better weekend for Morgan. He seems to do well in certainly one of the races that we get at Thruxton. Obviously took a win here last year, and at the start of race 3, I thought he'd already scampered off into the distance. But obviously Rowbottom pulled him back in, which means that he just missed out on that. So a B for him this weekend.
Yeah, he's still learning the car. You've got to give him a little bit of slack. I think he's growing into the team and growing into the way it will work. I know it's the same car I had last year, but there's going to be differences.
Yeah, there's probably technical differences and how the team runs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, he's certainly settling in and getting his feet underneath the table.
Jelly, another disastrous weekend for Jelly, unfortunately. It's a D. Oh, man.
It's very jelly or jelly.
Yeah.
Isn't it? There's no in between at the moment.
No.
So, yeah, real struggle for him this weekend. No points scored. Looking to move on, certainly very quickly.
Yes, moving on. Toyota. Butcher with a B. I'm still disappointed with the car in terms of it's not where I expected it to be. But Butcher is consistent in it now and getting consistently top 8 finishes.
Yeah.
Looked a little bit racy at times this weekend, which is nice, I suppose.
Got his elbows out at times as well.
Yeah.
Was able to defend a few moves. Collard, again, getting some good pace out of the car. But could it be better?
I don't know. It's a B for Collard as well.
Yeah.
I think they're getting what's in the car out of the car, if that makes sense. But
getting the most out of the car currently.
It's not where I expected it to be. And Gamble really seems to be struggling with the car this season. He's got a D in a retirement in the 3 races as well. I think he's retired. Don't quote me, I'm not sure, but I think he might have had retirement in every meeting so far.
It's not a good start. Yes, he's got to adapt to the front wheel drive. And I thought at points this season, he's gone, okay, he's keeping pace with Butcher and Collard, who were obviously in the car last season. And I thought it was all going to be building to more, but he's had a little bit of a dip this weekend.
Absolutely. Go on then.
Moving on to Cook, obviously the king of Thruxton.
Yeah.
A very almost somber and sad Cook this weekend, considering his
He wasn't the only one.
his qualifying performance. He far outdid your expectations, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, thank God he didn't win. You'd be making me eat a pie on the review pod, which you haven't done, which is kind of you.
You were worried midway through qualifying when I sent you the picture of
Yeah.
him at top and setting fastest laps.
Yeah,
But he didn't quite have the race pace this weekend. 2 third positions, and then didn't make much progress in the reverse grid at race 3.
Not surprised, given where the car has been this year, to not make the progress.
But that's their best performance this season, which gathers him a B.
Yeah, and my wheel knowledge is appalling, so that's all good news for everybody.
Mate,
absolutely washed. So yeah, it's a B for Cook. Well done, Cook. Very well done indeed. Enjoy the money. Moffat is B.
Yes, well done. You can read.
Took me a while.
Go on.
Good podium for him, first of the year. Did fairly well in race 3 to keep the pack behind him. I think it's fair to say he was the cork in the bottle, but he did defend very well indeed.
I mean, he only had to defend from Turkington, who was not going to take any risks, was he?
Surprised he didn't.
I am. Yeah.
Given where we are in the championship, I'm surprised he didn't. But Moffat did keep him behind, and that's what he needs to do. Took a podium, which means he's only got one less than Josh this year. So for his own thing, that's that's quite good.
And he scored points.
Yeah, all 3
which
races.
It's something that the car's been struggling to do under his tutorship.
Let's see if this is the turning point.
Might be. It might be.
Powell had an almighty smash in race 2.
He certainly had a turning point, didn't he?
Yeah, and you've got to give full credit to the One Motorsport boys and girls for getting him back out, because they must have had to rebuild the entire front end.
Yeah, completely wiped even the crash bar off the front end.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why he kept going once the bonnet had flipped up.
I guess it's drivable. Get it back to the pits. That's the quicker you get it back to the pits, the quicker you can get worked on.
Yeah, but instead he left it in the middle of the field because it wasn't safe to get back to the pits. And again, another disappointing weekend. He was either last or one but last for most of the weekend. So another D for him.
Okay, this is probably the biggest disappointment of the weekend for me personally. And we're going to go to the Cupra side of things. Thompson with a D. Didn't qualify particularly well. Okay, scored points in race 1, and then just everything went wrong the rest of the weekend.
It looks like the car let him down in race 2 and didn't come out for race 3.
That's quite a novel thing to happen in that garage.
Yes. Same again for Lloyd. Didn't manage to score any points this weekend. Dropped back. Had a few incidents as well. The Cupra really wasn't at the races this weekend.
Not for those two. No, I agree with you. Nor was it for Boutel or Hamilton. Both get Ds. Both completely innocuous weekends, and both didn't really see them, apart from the incident with Powell, where one of them was involved.
I'm pretty sure it was Hamilton involved in the incident with Powell that put him off.
Otherwise, there's no.
But yeah, Boutel had a retirement at least.
Had a pit problem, came in the pits as well in race 1. Yeah, it's a D for both. They're better days, you feel.
Yeah, the standout performer though from the Cupras is Patterson. Managed to get into the points twice this weekend, 2 15ths in race 2 and race 3. And there's a racer in there, isn't there?
But there is, Sam. Is. I mean,
I know.
He is doing really well. Well, you consider, and it's, you can only compare to your teammate, and I don't think they're in equal machinery. That is, I think, almost certain. But you look at where you are compared to your teammate, and he has absolutely, with caveats, beaten Edwards every which way this year.
Yeah.
And actually, as you say, you take Thompson, and I'm not even sure you can say Lloyd, but say Thompson and Lloyd, he's certainly the third best. I think he's possibly even the second best in that pool of 6. At the moment, I think Lloyd is overall.
Yes.
But I think from where he's getting the car, what he's getting from the car week in, week out, he's always in and around the points, which is where he should be.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he now leads Jack Sears, so it's a C for him.
Edwards gets an F for just throw it in the bin. Throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
I would use expletives, but we're a clean podcast.
I feel so sorry for her, man. I just feel so sorry for her because it's such
from the car that she had last year, a car that she could develop, that she could find a setup in, that she could then tweak to a car this season, which we believe is a crashed chassis from last season.
It's the Parfit all over again, isn't it?
It's a terrible base to start from.
But it's the Parfit stuff all again. But you think how hard she's worked to get on the grid again this season.
Yep.
I feel for her because you're 4 rounds in. And I don't know. The mental strength of these drivers is incredible. So I don't think I could be coaxed back to going back at this moment in time. And it's got the same feeling as Parfit last year. Everything seems to be a bit botched. Everything seems to be a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very much striking of the fact that they've got too many cars now.
I think that is regrettably the case.
But yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. On to a lighter note.
Yeah.
PMR. Wow.
Yeah, good stuff.
Doble this weekend, stunning qualifying.
Absolutely.
Stunning.
Yep.
And then, yes, he did drop back through the first couple of races.
It was always going to be the case.
Exactly. With the cars you got around you and the drivers that you got around you, you always thought he was going to drop back a little bit.
And race pace is different to quali pace. We see this all the time.
But he's taken a Jack Sears win.
He has.
Which at the start of the
He's
season...
taken 2.
Well, over the weekend, I mean.
He took 2 this weekend, didn't he?
Yes, but over the weekend, he's won the Jack Sears.
Yeah,
if you offered that to him at the start of the season to take one weekend Jack Sears win, he'd have snapped your hand off for it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, credit to him. A B this weekend.
Yeah, Andrew Watson gets a C. Great qualifying. Would have been fascinating to see what he could have done if he was able to start race 1. But a good fight back as well. That he's fought back fairly well. He scored some points. He scored some good points to Jack Sears.
Credit to the team as well, changing that hub to get him ready for race 1 and out on the lead lap. To then make up the positions. I think he finished 18th in race 1.
Which is a good effort. And then Aaron Taylor-Smith, B for him. 3 very good finishes.
Consistent. All 3 of them inside the top 8 in qualifying as well.
Yeah, which I was not expecting coming into the weekend for fairly obvious reasons. I mentioned they're not expecting. Well, actually, there's no point listening to anything we expect because our predictions were terrible this weekend. So
I was on track.
So were the cars.
I was on track for a few, and then a couple of people let me down.
Yeah, boo-hoo, frankly, when you come to mind. Boo-hoo. So, a recap. We both had Camish for pole. That didn't work. We got the car right.
I mean, it's difficult not to get the car right at the moment. But there we go.
That's like BMW managing it. Race winners, I got none. I went for Hill, Double, and Collard. Yeah, just that little... What's good? Is it Tumbleweed? That's the
Tumbleweed's
one.
gone past.
You went for Cook, Sutton, and Turkington. Congratulations on a point. Enjoy it.
At this point, hindsight, I'm just going to go for Sutton double wins for the rest of the season.
I think. Well, yeah, that's going to become the problem. Is that we're going to have to put Sutton in at least once.
Yeah.
Which
is why I was amazed in the preview that you hadn't put him in for a race win, considering his performances so far this season.
Yeah, I just thought other drivers were going to up their game this weekend. I just thought that this was the weekend that BMW would get it right. Because when BMW do get it right at Thruxton, they go really well. And I thought this was going to be the weekend they finally got it right. That clearly didn't happen. And I was also expecting perhaps Camish, who goes strongly here, to
We've already said that Camish had a fairly insignificant weekend.
Well, yeah.
And yeah, I thought he would go a little bit better.
But yeah, you went Jack Sears wise. I went for Watson, which was and in the qualifying.
You were looking pleased.
And actually, at the end of race 1, it wasn't over because he.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, but you got to give Doble the credit. I got the right car. That's half a point.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
I was a damn sight closer than you, who went for Osborne.
Yes,
who did not have a good weekend.
He severely let me down this weekend.
Indeed. In terms of the general predictions, then. We'll ignore my first one. I went for no podium for Cook.
Just the 2.
And one for Moffat.
I was going to say 3 podiums for One Motorsport. You must be happy as a team, even though
I'm not.
Well, no. But Cook, really wasn't pleased by 3rd, was he?
No, I can understand the feeling of that, as I'm not happy either because it lost me a point.
Certainly did.
Yeah, I also went for Edwards in the points, a track that she likes, and I thought this weekend it was going to turn. The thing, I think the best thing I can do is just not predict anything positive for her for the rest of the season. Hopefully that will work. Because,
it worked for me first weekend.
Yeah.
So I got that one out of the way.
And no safety cars in the touring car races. Point on the board. That's all I needed this weekend.
You were begging for the safety car not to come out in race 1 when a couple of drivers just pulled off to the side.
Yeah.
got out of their cars, you were just hoping that they weren't going to be in bad positions.
I don't think we've had a single weekend since we started the predictions 2 years ago, whenever it was we started this bloody podcast. I don't think we've ever had a single time when one of us hasn't got at least one right. So I was very concerned. Yeah. So a point for the safety car. Your 3 was 3-point scores for Chiltern, which until race 3 was looking good.
Until 3 laps from the end of race 3 was looking good.
Life comes at you fast.
Yeah, it does.
PMR to outscore all 6 hard. Yeah, inspired. Fair play. Fair play.
Unfortunately, quite convincingly as well.
Yeah, no, I can't even argue that one. Fair play. Good. And a new leader at the end of the round. You're a fool. You're a fool.
Wishful thinking, I think.
And then finally, chicane cut.
Yes.
Last time we did this, we grossly overestimated and looked very silly. This time, we're a bit closer. I went for 8. You went for 11. I think the final number was 13, 14.
13 or 14.
So,
once it got past 12, I wasn't too interested as I picked up the point already.
Get a point for that, which means there is a change at the...
That's
no, you're not changing. No, you're not. I knew you were going to try and claim that. No, you now go a point ahead on 11, and I am on 10.
Yeah.
Have you got any final thoughts for this prediction and driver grade podcast roundup special thing, Thruxton edition?
Thruxton disappointed me this weekend.
Oh, I am shocked.
It was.
Where's that? Well, I've not got my flag here. I should have brought my flag with me.
It was a little processional at times. Yes, there was some good battling, certainly for the bottom end of the points, first of all. There were normally 5, 6, 7, even 8 cars at times battling for that final point. And the Jack Sears has been very interesting. Apart from that,
there wasn't
much overtaking. Robot found loads of overtaking opportunities in the complex and made the most of them.
Yeah.
But apart from that, the minis were brilliant.
Yeah, minis are fantastic. Alan Gow, if by any miracle you listen, please sign them up for the. I think we speak for everyone. Please sign them up.
It was such good fun, and it was good to see some ex-drivers in there as well. In
Mike Jordan, drivers, they're still technically driving. Clarity.
Mike Jordan, Andrew Jordan, and also Jeff Smith.
Yeah.
Obviously from several years ago now in touring cars.
Yeah, good to see. And Mike Jordan hasn't aged a day since touring cars, has he?
Yes,
he really hasn't. Yeah, my final thoughts are, I mean, I've given the rant on the review about Thruxton, and I've talked about Thruxton to death. So I'm going to go for something else I always mention. Hybrid really needs sorting. It does, Sam. It really needs sorting. It's not going to get sorted this season. We've discussed on the pod about whether Napa should be pegged back, and our views are obviously on that pod. But yeah, for me, the hybrid just has to get sorted out because, as you said, there's no overtaking this weekend. Well, there was some, but nothing particularly grand.
Nothing that was induced by hybrid.
No, we've now had 2 tracks back to back where I think that's happened with Snetterton and Snetterton and Thruxton. I think there are 2 tracks where you need perhaps an overtaking aid like hybrid that works to make the moves work. Brands and Donington you don't need because much more flowing, much more natural places. The corners follow in a nicer way. Yeah, that's my final thought. We need to get that sorted out. And as you say, get the minis on every weekend, please. Every touring car weekend. That'd be lovely.
But yeah, please do join us again. Remember to subscribe, share with all your friends and family that are into motorsport and touring cars. Sometimes we can be a bit of a laugh.
And even those who aren't, share with them.
Yeah.
Insomniacs friends.
Remember to get the bell on below on YouTube. And please do leave us a comment. What were your grades for this weekend? Who were your standout drivers? And any predictions for next time out?
We'll be back with a Alton Park preview very soon.